Calkin. I'm the Demoman and leader of Tony Hawk Pro Skaters and ESC Intermediate, and I also mentor on Com Fortress very often. Now, what I thought I'd do here that's a little different than your standard MGE video is go over the map instead of going over just a demo. And so what I'm going to do is go over Granary, because that's a map that very often my mentees will come to me and say, "Oh, Calkin, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing on this map. I don't know where I'm supposed to be. I don't know how to push," and I just always end up finding myself in the wrong positions. Well, hopefully that'll relieve a little bit of that. So I'm going to start first things first with what not to do on your rollouts, and that is something like this. For starters, you don't want to jump too far down into resupply, because if you jump all the way to resupply, what ends up happening is while you get health from resupply, and that's really cool, your medic can't overheal you and ends up having to overheal you later as you're walking, getting ready for your next jump. So you'll end up with a bad heal order. Not only that, you won't have enough health getting to your jumps, you'll be a little slower than usual. Now, the second thing you don't do is, a lot of Demomen seem to think that you have to land on this little fence thing for some reason, and I don't really understand that, I guess because you don't take fall damage. But all that ends up doing is slowing you down. You shouldn't be aiming to land on that fence. You just want to kind of get up here as far as you possibly can and get ready to get in line for your next jump. So just don't do that. That bothers me that people do that. The next thing I'm going to go over is actual rollouts to mid. So first things first is the standard left jump, skipping health pack. And the reason why you skip health pack is because you want to get there a little faster. I'm going to be a little more lit than usual. And you saw the first thing I'm doing here is I'm coming in and taking health pack is I'm sending out 2 charge stickies at the other team's health pack, and that is because if I'm a little faster than their Demoman and the Demoman's a little lit and I can manage to hit those accurately and put on some early damage on that Demoman, he'll be feeling much more pressure throughout the entire mid fight, and that's generally a good thing. And number 2, when you first get into mid, a lot of Demomen I see get a little paranoid about their surroundings because they are aware that scouts are going to more than likely rush them if they have an opening. Now, you should limit your possibilities here. Now, a lot of my mentees, when I watch demos of them playing, they'll be looking over left like they're afraid of something coming from here. Well, you shouldn't be, because your soldiers are going to be coming in here very shortly after you and covering you from this position. So unless a scout is truly going to beeline and risk getting killed by your soldiers as he passes trying to get to you, you don't have to worry about that. So as soon as you pick up the health pack and start playing this position, your main worries are a scout coming from this corridor, a scout coming straight across the point, which you'll be able to see, a scout coming from right corridor and trying to sneak up on you here, or a scout coming from far right. Now, you need to be working with your scouts in this sense, and that you need to listen to your scouts' comms and make sure your scouts calm the location of your scouts as fast as possible. And as soon as you have the location of their scouts, you can work on keeping them away from you, just putting stickies on the ground, stickies in front of them, or trying to put out sticky damage on them, which is generally what you're going to focus on doing in the first 10 seconds or so of the mid-fight, or 5 when the scouts and Demoman are the only ones here. So you're going to want to play the health pack position, know where the scouts and the Demoman are, and try and put out as much damage as you can on them from this position while you wait for your soldiers to get here. Now, when the soldiers start to get in the fight and you're ready for the soldiers to, or their soldiers are going to be coming in with their medic, it's a really good time. This is the optimal time to take a break from sticky spamming and put out some pipe spam. And you can put 4 over right or 4 over left if you think they're going to try and jump left on crates, and both work. And you pretty much should do this every time about the time that the soldiers are going to be coming into the mid-fight. Just because, really on Granary, there's 2 options where the main combo is going to be heading into mid, and you have a 50% chance of choosing correctly and hitting them with a bunch of blind spam. And if you do hit that spam, it can make your lives a lot easier. It maybe make them play a little more behind crates, which is generally nice. But as soon as the soldiers start getting into play, things start getting a little more weird, a little less defined, and it kind of gets hard for me to talk about it. But let's say if they send soldiers left and start jumping on your crates that are your focus, from that point, you pretty much need to focus on putting as much damage out as possible on top of the crates and kind of ignore what else is happening around you, unfortunately. So if you're playing the health pack position, which you should be, because this is generally the best position no matter what your rollout is, is you should just switch to stickies and spam up on crates as much as you can. Try and get them off, support your soldiers. It's just something very often you'll see happen. Now, let's say the combo instead tries to go far right around. Well, then you should obviously call that, and then try and put out some sticky spam. And if they're coming straight at you, you can also pipe spam in this direction, but generally I find stickies are more effective in this area, and pipes are better at spamming over the crates. But if you have a clear shot on them, then stickies are going to be a better option. But enough about that. Mids get kind of weird. Let's go over a different rollout. Now you notice the first time I was doing the left rollout is that I didn't pick up the health pack. If you were to like have a bad heal order for whatever reason, you can still pick up this health pack and then switch over it and go left. And you'll be a little slower than usual, but at least you'll have nice HP when you get to mid, which is pretty cool. But generally do the left rollout unless you're really not comfortable with being to mid with a little less HP. In which case, okay, you can pick up the health pack, be a little baby. Now another rollout you can do, which has two really distinct options, is to go right. Now reasons why you'd want to go right vary, but the first thing that I find to be most beneficial to doing a right rollout is that you can, number one, is that if you see that their scouts have gone right, for instance, other times you've gone left and they've tried to push two scouts around this corner, what you can do is you can have your scouts come around right corner and come with you, and then you can peek really early in the mid-fight and try and put out some sticky spam while your scouts engage them, and hopefully get an early pick that made. That's just one method, or one way you can adapt to a mid-fight. Another reason why I like to use this rollout is just because you have a really good avenue for spam, where you can come over and you can land some really nice spam on the other team's combo as they enter from choke if they were to go right. The third reason why I like to go this route is because I get to mid with about 100 or so HP, or sorry, 150 or so HP, and then I can come over here and pick up this health pack, but I can delay this health pack pick up a little bit as I play this position, and then as I take a little more damage, then I can pick it up. Since I'm fine being at 150 or so, it's no big deal, and nobody will have picked the health pack yet. So it gives you a slight kind of HP advantage if you can play that properly, which is cool. But once you get into this position, which you should generally fall to if you do go right, and then you play pretty much standard from that point on. Now something else you can do is you can go right, but instead you can go up on top of a catwalk. Now, reasons you'd want to go on catwalk are, let's say you're just getting bum rushed by scouts, you have like problems staying alive on the ground. That's one thing you can do, is you can switch to go up on catwalk, because on catwalk, scouts obviously can't get to you immediately, which is pretty convenient. A second reason that you'd want to go catwalk is because you predict that the other team is going to send soldiers jumping up on crates from left, and if that's the case, then coming up on catwalk gives you a pretty easy avenue to spam this with pipes, and then if they do jump on crates, you have a direct line of sight to sticky down on them with a little bit of height advantage. Of course, you can play this if you think the team is going to go on the other side as well, and then as you get to mid, you can come in and spam pipes over from here. Now, from this catwalk position, you can either fall into crates if the fight's going well for you, and try and put more pressure onto the health pack area, or you can of course fall down and play the standard health pack position for mid, which again, as soon as the soldiers get into mid, it gets kind of hectic and it gets kind of hard for me to describe what to do. But let's say that you do end up capping mid. What should you do immediately or what should you do while you're capping mid, or when the point's being capped, they're falling out, is of course you should lock down everything, make sure that you don't have any scouts behind you. If you know that it's a fact and you think they might try to Uber in or send a suiciding soldier, you should lock down the avenues for that to happen. But most of the time, whatever, you kind of get that anyway. So So if you do have mid, and let's say that they have a medic up, and they're holding yard with that medic and that combo, and you guys can't push immediately into yard, and you need to set up for a hold for mid, generally what you should be doing then is you should be watching the left garage. And the reason why you'd watch garage is because contrary to choke, which you can only enter from right yard relative to us, is that garage can be entered from both left and right yard, so it has the most avenues of access. So more than likely, if they push on mid, while they might push people through choke, they're definitely going to push people through garage. So having this sticky trapped is a pretty good advantage to your team, and you have a pretty likely chance of actually picking somebody if they do push. So when you're going to sticky trap this, pretty simple. You just need to put 4 or 5 stickies above the door, nothing special. If you want to sticky trap garage, there's a bunch of neat spots you can use to get a little more tricky, of course. All of which are fine, but still, generally, just using a basic door trap like that is totally fine. You don't need to get too fancy. Just down and dirty, it works. Now, you can be watching choke if you'd like, and that's totally cool with me, but I'd prefer that you didn't, since I find that garage is a little more effective. And you can relegate watching the choke to a roaming soldier position, as he can just sit up on crates and watch from there. And remember, if you are sitting here, when you have the trap up, you can spam with your pipes. And if you run out of ammo or run low, you've always got the health pack right behind, or sorry, the ammo pack right behind you right here that you can pick up, no problem, and you'll be fine. So generally, from this point on, let's say you get a pick. Most teams won't push until they get a pick, because this is one of the most stalemate points or areas in the game, and teams are too afraid to really push. But let's say you get a pick, or your team decides to call a push. Most of the time, I'd say as a Demoman, as a team, because my team likes to play this way, is you should be pushing from garage, but you can push from choke, and that works fine too as well. It's not a big deal, whatever works. But as you're pushing in, generally what you want to do here is follow your soldiers. You don't want to be the first one in, because your soldiers are going to want to take the Uber and come in, and then they're probably going to want to jump. And you might only have a soldier coming from here while your roaming comes in from the right side, and your scouts going to the left. But you don't want to be the first to win, and you want to be taking the Uber, because you want to give your soldiers the opportunity to have the Uber first, jump in, and use that to maybe pop their medic, etc. So you're going to follow behind, wait for your soldiers to come in, and then put out some charged sticky damage. And then if you do get Ubered, you can take it further in. A lot of times this will end up in Uber versus Uber situation in yard, and it comes down to who has the better positioning. Or if you see that you're going to lose the Uber fight, there's really no shame in falling back really quickly and then just sticking off the garage or choke or wherever you're falling back to and trying to salvage your push. But saying that you do successfully take yard, then that's really cool, good for you. At this point on, if you're going to be holding on here, you should, by all means, be holding on right and locking down this gate. Now, you wouldn't want to be on left side, because most of the time there's going to be scouts over there, and your scouts are also going to be covering that. And by the way, your roaming soldiers should most of the time be over on that side. So the better position for Demoman to play is here, because as well, if your team decides they want to call a push, being a demo, this is the best spot to be. Now, you're going to want to have this stickied whenever you're holding, waiting to push this, and you're just waiting for a pick or whatever. So definitely put 4 or so stickies up here. Or 5, and then if you're at an Uber disadvantage, you can be holding a little further back while you have this stickied, wait for them to try and pick a soldier through, and then you might be able to get a pick, and if you don't, or if they Uber through, then you can fall back to choke, or you could be hiding over here and you can fall back into the garage. But otherwise, if say you have tight Ubers, you can peek through this door from this position and try and put out some damage, or see if something's going on. Now, if they're holding a little far back for any reason, say nobody is directly in this area, which normally won't be, what you can do is you can be a little tricky with your sticky traps, and you can try and stink a trap up above the point when they're not paying attention. Now, this is one way you can try and get a pick as a demo man, try and be a little crafty, be to put a trap up there when they're not paying attention, or to put a trap just around this wall, and then try and have like a soldier come in and sneak a little bit, and then put out some damage and try and bait a soldier into following him, and you can get. And that's just a little trick that I like to use in this point. But otherwise, so holding from here, you should have your demo this kind of position, generally your soldier would be here as well with a medic, and have roaming and scouts on the left. Oh, that's how THPS plays, sorry. Now, pushing into this point, this is actually a really good point for a Demoman to be Ubered on, contrary to a soldier, and the reason why is because as you're turning this and trying to edge this, while edging it as a soldier is pretty easy, as a Demoman, you have much more range and can put out more damage at range with better splash than a soldier, because most of the time the other team is going to be holding with their combo in that position. And from this position, you really don't have to charge much, or really charge at all, to put damage out on them. So if you were to turn this corner and then Uber with your Demoman in this position, or get yourself Ubered, you can put out a lot of damage, and it's generally a pretty effective strategy to use. Now you can Uber soldiers in here, and that's totally fine as well. But remember, the main thing is that when you're pushing this, you need to also be very wary of all the sticky traps. One sticky trap, at least that's pretty popular, that a lot of teams will fall for, is to put stickies in this. And I'll do it on red side as well, just because, you know, the blue side or red side, they blend in. And it's a pretty funny trap. Of course, don't just be eager to jump in and get sticky trapped, etc. But let's say you do manage to take this point, then the first priority, if you're not going to immediately push, if you don't have an advantage, is to just lock down the doors. Now with gates, you don't need to get creative and put stickies above the door or anything else. You can just put stickies right in front of the gate, and then as soon as it opens, you can det, and most of the time they'll actually pick somebody if you put 4 on the ground. You can do that with both sides. I usually just prefer to lock down that and then lock down top side and just wait for our team to decide what they're gonna do. Now, as a Demoman, say you're getting ready to push on there last, I wouldn't suggest going from top side. I've never had a good experience with it. And going from either the ground on either side, you have a much better avenue to aim and put sticky spam down or pipe spam. So generally, as a Demoman, I prefer to push on the right side. And when you're pushing on the right side, what you should be focusing on during this push is mainly people that are up on top of the pipes, because your soldiers can't really effectively deal with people on pipes, because, well, they have rockets. They have to either direct hit them or it's going to miss, because otherwise they'll hit the side, the splash won't work. So they're going to have a problem otherwise, unless they rocket jump up and try and take them down from that kind of perspective. But you as a Demoman have the easiest time putting damage and pressure on any players that are playing the pipes. So first priority pushing on this is going to be any close players on pipes, and then you can move to sending charge stickies, or if they're all holding around point for whatever reason, you can spam. But otherwise, you're going to want to slowly move in, put as many charge stickies down on as many players as you possibly can. Generally, what I do when I'm pushing a point is I focus on putting as much damage as I possibly can on the combo, trying to force them to Uber from far, or I try to focus putting damage on soldiers in general, and or the other Demoman. But that's your first focus, of course, pipes, then the combos position, etc. if you push from right. You can also, when you're pushing this, if you want to, if you see an opportunity for whatever reason, you can jump. And the thing is about jumping as a Demoman that I need to touch on is that jumping as a Demoman is very high risk, high reward. And while you're in midair, when you do a jump, you have a lot of potential to do damage. But if you fail that jump and you land in the middle of the other team, you're at a really bad position to deal damage or really survive at all. So try and use that as a rule of thumb. While jumping can be advantageous and can really make a play, most of the time you're going to jump and do nothing and die. So you can play it a little safer and just play on the ground. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I find that generally when I play on the ground and I don't get jump happy, I play a little more consistently, just putting down sticky spam. Now let's switch gears a little bit and go to left side. It's very similar on the left side to the right side. Only the difference being that you have this other pipe directly above you, and you have a more direct avenue to over here. Now, one of the reasons why you would choose to push left side is because you think that, or you know that like they have a sentry hidden around here, in which case you can take your demo man in, and as a demo you can pretty easily spam a sentry that's on the other side of that position. But really, when it comes down to pushing either side, it doesn't really matter. I find equal success pushing both sides, so I can't say that there's one you're supposed to push more than the other, although I prefer pushing on the right side myself. I am equally successful here. Let's switch to red side, and we'll go over from their perspective. Let's say you're holding it last. What should you be doing? No, you get pushed all the way back to your last, or whatever. Not all is lost, but a lot of Demoman don't know what to do at this point, or seem to think that there's this dumb, really dumb idea that you should be sticky trapping on the point for some reason. And maybe that's because on Badlands that's what you're supposed to do or should be doing, but on Granary, no, because it's an open point. You'll be able to see anybody coming from a mile away, and at the same time this is a slower cap than the Badlands cap. So if you don't have stickies on it, it's not a big deal. Most of the time your team will be able to react in time, whereas on Badlands they won't. So please don't put stickies on this. Now what you should be doing on last is you should have a forward trap on either the left or the right sides. Now I'm going to tell you just straight up, I prefer to hold on the left side, just because I know that I like to push on the left side, and a lot of teams like to push in this perspective. But one very common traps I'll do is I'll put 5 on top of this door and 3 around here, so that I can watch it from this position. If I see them coming in, I can get. If I see them coming in from right side, I still have a trap over there that is easily watchable by me. And a lot of times why this trap will work is because the soldier will round the corner, getting ready to do a rocket jump and do it off the wall, and instead he'll eat stickies. So that's kind of an effective way I've seen to watch both sides, is from this kind of perspective. And if you do trap, or they Uber through, or your trap doesn't work, you don't want to be holding too close, because if you were to be in this kind of position, you're just going to get jumped or rushed by a scout. Whereas if you're back here like this, it's pretty easy for you to fall back to the point and get out of immediate line of fire, and then sticky spam while you're falling back. If you were to hold on the right side, then again, you can put stickies directly above. If you want to get tricky and try something like this, that's also fine. You can also, from the right side, put stickies up there if you wanted to, for whatever reason. Something you can do from this, it's a little different, is that you can pipe spam up through the windows and put some rollers down over onto the point, and maybe put some damage out if the other team is being lazy and not paying attention, or if they're trying to put players through on top. It's a nice way to put some damage out, and that's something you can try yourself, see if you have any success with it. But otherwise, when you're being pushed on it last, it gets a little chaotic, so I can't really go over that, other than just try and put out as much sticky spam as you possibly can as they're entering, and make it hell for them to get into the fight. Now let's say you do manage to hold it last and wipe enough of them that you can push back. What you should generally do in that situation is cover. Make sure you're going in from an entrance that somebody isn't covering. You want to make sure that you're covering pretty much everything, so that somebody's pushing top, somebody's pushing right, somebody's pushing left side optimally, and nothing is going to get by and back cap you. Otherwise you're going to have to leave something back, or you'll get back cap. So pushing this point, as a demo man, your priority is going to be to lock this down, so soldiers can't immediately get through. And then if you do manage to lock this down, you can of course turn left, or if you think there's something on top, put stickies up there. And that's what I tend to prefer to do, is I tend to lock this down and then be wary of anything going top, trying to get around or put pressure on from behind or to jump on our med. But you do wanna lock this choke down more than any other one. So that's gonna be your main focus. And then hopefully, of course, you'll have cap presence. You'll cap it before they manage to get respawns. But either way, you've managed to recap too. So when you're holding this point, what you're going to generally have is you're generally going to have a soldier over right with 2 scouts watching this area, so you don't have to. And then as a demo man, you're going to be sitting with your combo in this kind of position. And what you're going to want to do is you're going to, of course, put up traps. And there's a lot of traps that you can use here. Of course, you can go for a trap just above, putting 4 or so above the gate. You can try and get a little trickier, put some over here. Just around this box can be effective as well. There's a lot of creative traps. One trap you can do is to put stickies just up here. And the reason why this will work is because the camera, depending on the angle where the player's standing, can block that trap from view. And then a player might come over trying to edge corner this and then not realize that they're standing by a trap that was covered by the camera. Something else you can do is you can put stickies in this, and that would be trying to be wary of people coming from Z tunnel. And on blue side, there's a metal thing that's actually covered that you can actually put stickies inside of, and they're entirely invisible, so just keep note of that. And if you want to be a little extra creative, you can actually hide stickies inside of ammo boxes pretty well, and you can do that pretty much anytime there's an ammo box like that. And it's kind of funny, a way to lame your opponent. And the last traps that are pretty effective are putting them directly with the point, as I think I mentioned earlier, because it blends in with the hovering icon, the color of your stickies, and it can be a little hard to see. And so sometimes teams won't even check it, they won't pay attention and they won't notice it, and then they'll just be sitting on the point with ×3, ×4, and you can det and get a few kills. And generally you're going to want to just sit here and watch those traps. If you have a trap over there, you might want to play a little more in this position, so you can watch it, see when they come in. Otherwise, if you're playing with a trap over here, or a trap on this or this, you can just play here and play back, so that if they do Uber in, you can let your soldier get Ubered and stay alive. You don't want to be holding too close to this corner and then have the other team Uber in on you and then take you out easily, because you were just overextending, staying too close. So generally back here, or if you have a trap over on directly on top of the door, you can watch back here. But you shouldn't be watching right. Now, they're pushing on you. At that point, it's going to be an Uber exchange. You're just going to want to make sure that your med doesn't drop you and that you det your sticky traps at the right times, hopefully. But let's say that you get a pick, or they tried to push on you and it failed. What you're generally going to do then is to push out. There's 2 things you can do. Is if you know this or think this is stickied and you need to take it a little slow here, put some stickies down, make sure that you spam, try and check it, or hug as you're coming out the door, the far side, hopefully, and they'll manage to get you by the stickies. Or if you know that it's sticky, and a lot of times what I'll do is we'll opt to just push out of Z and then come around, since most of the time a demo won't have the stickied. And you won't have to worry about spam from soldiers, because soldiers usually won't be holding out here unless they just got resupplied or just spawned at forward respawn. So generally as a demo, you're going to be pushing from either of those 2 directions, but if you go from this direction, you got to make sure that your soldiers are checking for sticky traps, or you check for a sticky trap. And a good tip as a demo man is that you can put stickies on the ground right in front of it, and generally it'll hit stickies that are too low and knock them upwards, and you'll be able to see them, unless the demo puts them a little higher to counteract that, which a lot of good demo men will do. But that's just one way you can check for stickies as a demo man. It's pretty effective. The soldiers can't really do too well. Now pushing this yard, the problem you're going to have here is that you're going to have to rely on a lot of long-range sticky spam. And just kind of pressure them out. You're of course your soldiers might want to bomb, but there's not really a good place to pipe spam unless they're holding inside of garage for some reason, which they probably won't be, or they're trying to fall out back left, in which case, yeah, you can have a good avenue for pipe spam here. But otherwise, as a demo, you're going to want to push either directions into this yard with your combo. Now when you have yard, you're going to want to hold it. And of course, you kind of want to kind of mirror what you're doing when you do the mid hold, in that you're going to want to be watching this door mainly and put them up around the control point sign. You can put 5 up or so. And then just watch it intently. Now the reason why you watch this is, again, because this is one of the more main avenues pushed, but at the same time, because scouts will try and sneak in, go left yard, and put pressure on your scouts. So most of the time I'd say that until you can manage watching like more than one trap or do something, because you can sticky trap, put 4 up here or so, and then put stickies over on top of this. And you can watch both of them at the same time, by all means, but it's kind of difficult to do, and until you get good at making sure that you're watching one and getting one, I'd say just focus on one. And even myself, I just focus on the right sticky trap and don't bother with the left one most of the time, which is a little bad of me for kind of ignoring left side, but I just make sure that I have a soldier up on top left, and he's watching that for me, so I don't have to worry about it, and then I worry about the right side, and that's kind of how we relegate it. By all means, do not hold in right yard. This is where your scouts should be. And if you're holding over here, you're pretty dumb. You're not going to be able to get heals. If a scout rushes through, you have a pretty easy time picking in, since you won't have much time to react. Peeking in front of this garage when you're holding this is a bad idea if you think that anybody's in it, because if there's a soldier holding up close right around this corner, or up on top, and you decide you're gonna peek in and try and put out some damage, and they're surprised soldier in your face, you're gonna die, of course. So you want to make sure that if you are gonna peek and put any pressure here as a demo man, you should leave it to your scouts first to check if it's clear, and if it is clear, then cool, and you can put pressure here. But otherwise, if you think anybody is in this, you should not put any pressure up close. Just hang back, pipe spam when you have a trap up, etc. If you find that you've run out of ammo for some reason and you need to pull back for ammo, just one thing you should do, and you should do this in any point, any situation where you have this kind of thing going on and you have a trap up, is just call to your teammates, say, just ask, please call my det, and then just listen, and as soon as they say det or anything of the sort, just on impulse, you should react to it. And that can be a little difficult because you have lag listening to voices, etc., and reaction time. It's a lot easier to, of course, watch one, but it can be effective still to make a trap useful. Now, if you're going to push on mid as a demo, there's no side pushing back onto mid that's really preferable. Kind of like when you're pushing into yard, you can push both. And I tend to prefer to go from garage, and then when I get into garage, I like to just come out and kind of assume the health pack position and pretend it's a mid fight, and that's generally, I feel like, a good guideline. Is that your soldiers are going to be coming in, and you're not going to know where the scouts are at, and so you're going to kind of want to feel it out and let them find out where the scouts are, and listen for the comms. And then what you can do is, a lot of times teams, when they're falling back, is they're going to be falling back through choke, and you can put out some pipes from as they're falling back, or if they're on the point, you can of course charge stickies and advance with your team, or if you get Ubered, you can advance on them. But that's kind of really situational and hard to describe. If you were to push left, I'd advise the same thing really. Once you push up, see if anything's here, you can just go back, pick up health pack, and then kind of play in this position while your team goes around and does everything else. But that's kind of it for now. Now, what I wanted to do here was give a general overview and guidelines as to where you should be positioning yourself in various holds, when you have various points, general areas, how you should attack points, but nothing of what I said is like, it's just keep it as basic guidelines. It's not like the word of law, like if you do something else, like you're just going to die and it's not going to work. You can make other things work, feel free to experiment. But those are just generally, if you're having problems, if you don't know where you should be positioning, or if you're new to Demoman, those are the positions that generally work, and areas or places to push, or areas to push from, that are generally pretty effective, and you should follow those guidelines. and I think you'll have an easier time playing Granary as a result. So if you found any of this helpful, or you have any suggestions for improvement, or if you want me to do another map, just let me know in comments, or talk to me up, add me, I'm Calkin1 on Steam. And I think I'd love to do something else like this again, and hopefully you learn something new. Alright, see you guys later.